questions about spiritual direction. If you are, I'm sure that you may want to look on my website at myss.com for that class called on spiritual direction, and it's my first course, and it is Pebbles and Jewels at the Well. It's Pebbles at the Well, Jewels at the Well, and Drinking from the Well. Those are the first 3 classes. Beyond that, if you wanted a personal spiritual director, then I have some recommendations. But I need to say again that a spiritual director is not a therapist. It's someone to pursue the journey of your spirit. Someone who you would pursue matters of soul communion. I need to be listened to. I am going through something. When I first went to my spiritual director, and I'll just share this with you, the first thing I said was, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I have no idea what I'm doing here. And I cried all day. And I couldn't figure that out. Eventually I realized how good it felt to speak with somebody who I trusted, who didn't know anybody that I knew. And what an unbelievable freedom that gave me for the first time in my life. That I no longer had to speak with that sort of preface that said, I really love this person, but I also want to say. It was more important for me to learn how to speak about what drove me to conflict than who I was in conflict with. It didn't matter who I had a conflict with. What mattered to me, was that I would find myself perceiving anybody through the lens of conflict. Who cares who I had a conflict with? Became I wanted to know what it was in me that could engage conflict. My focus was not on anybody, but the mystery of me to me. Why would I perceive anybody through conflict? It became a question I examined for a year. Why would I perceive anything through conflict? What was conflict about? The word alone. To conflict with something. To conflict with anything. Why would I assume that the moment I saw something that I didn't even know that I would engage in a conflict? That I assumed a protective posture. It didn't matter if it was you or you or you or you. I needed to know me. That is a spiritual question. It's not a psychological one. It's a spiritual question. My director said, so talk to me about how you see conflict around you. It isn't personal. It's a matter of my spirit. It's a matter of a soul dialogue. Dialogue with your soul. That is spiritual direction. When in therapy, there comes moments when the model that has arisen is a very ineffective model. The ineffectualness of this model is because it is based on either you're in pain or you're not. And if you're in pain, something's wrong. You must get out of pain because something is wrong. So the assumption is that you should always be painless. That you should always be happy or painless or content. There's nothing realistic about that. There's nothing that is remotely realistic about that. It's preposterous, in fact. How can you not always be disappointed in your life if that's the model you're going after? You'll always be disappointed. You'll always be searching for some treasure that doesn't exist, for some love that's not perfect, for some wonderful thing you should be rewarded for. But you'll never be in the present moment because the present moment will never be enough. What the heck is enough? What's your definition of enough? It's never enough, is it? What's enough? Have you had enough? Well, no, because I'm not happy. Well, what's happy? I'm not sure, but I'll find it if I know. Well, what does it look like? Not sure. Well, what's it? Does it walk? Does it talk? What's your definition of enough? I cannot tell you how many times I've asked people, write down what happy is for you, and they look at me. And they can't. Go ahead, write down what happy is for you. And say, this is it. Seal it. Seal the deal, and imagine you're mailing it to heaven, and you won't do it. Because you're not sure. You actually don't know. Not enough to put your imprimatur on it. Not enough to say, yeah, this is it. This is the deal. Have an angel pick it up and deliver it. Not enough to actually say, this is it. Well, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. Maybe. Well, maybe not, because you don't know. You absolutely have no idea. And that's what the truth is. You absolutely don't know. And that is the nature of that's why it's actually the soul that you wonder what is the real journey is to actually to get to yourself and say, why am I so driven by all of these leaves that blow by my window every day? What there is a question worth asking. Now, in spiritual direction, if you came to me and said, I'm in so much anguish, I would never say to you, what's wrong? Because anguish doesn't mean anything's wrong to me. It doesn't signal anything is wrong at all. So you're in anguish. What shall we do about that? That's not a problem for me. We go in and we'll say, what shall we do? Let's explore your anguish. Let's dive deep. Take me down deep into the reason you gave me life. Let's describe, let's go down. Anguish is lush. It's rich territory. Where are we going? Maybe we're headed into a dark night. A dark night is not because you've lost your job. A dark night is not because someone's broken your heart. You'll get your heart broken if that, who cares? Have you ever seen anyone less romantic than me? I am so not a romantic. I'm not kidding. I probably should up it a little bit and kind of, come on, be a little romantic, but I'm not. Okay. So, broken heart. Wait a minute. Okay. All right. But the dark night is actually a profound journey. A profound, profound journey of when heaven says, now. We need to take you, and I need to break through the way in which you insist you want life to be. The way you insist. You are so stubborn. You are so hell-bent on having life be reasonable, be logical, be according to the way you want it. And that's not the way, you won't allow life to be life around you. You simply won't. You're so frightened. You won't allow life to be life around you. You want to control so much. You want to control yourself to the point where you're smothering. You want to control your choices, control your moods, control your heart. You want to control the pace at which you love, the pace at which you're intuitive. You want to control what you sense in other people and how you respond. You want to control what you can hear from God, not too much, not too little. You want to control what you can create. You want to control your creative expression. You want to control how much you'll let God inspire you, not too much, because what if you give me a really bold idea, then what do I do? What will people say? Why don't you give me an idea at something small? I won't act on it unless I'm sure I won't fail, unless I'm sure I won't be embarrassed. Don't humiliate me. Should take the word humiliate out of your vocabulary forever. It paralyzes you. Will this humiliate me? Spiritual direction. You sit with me and I would say, my goodness, we're going to dive deep into this. This kind of pain is good. It's not a pleasure, mind you. And it hurts like hell. But it's not a problem. It's a candle in the night. It's a candle in the night. And it's not one of those, we will never say, who did this to you? Who's responsible for why you hurt? Don't you ever talk like that again. Put your big person's pants on. And you look straight up and say, all right, what's going on here? What's going on in me? This is your new prayer. What's going on in me? You got my attention. You got my attention. No more, who did this to me? No more. No more. The moment comes when you stand in the power of your life. Stand in the power of your life. Stand fully in the power of your life. And don't hemorrhage to your history. And say, you got my attention. What's going on here? Talk to me. I'm listening. And now we begin, what is holy listening? Holy, H-O-L-Y. Holy listening. Oh, I love that idea. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm in love with holy listening. How do I hear you, God? How do I hear you, God? How do I hear you? How does heaven talk to you? How does heaven talk to you? Now, you are going to be inclined to listen with your ear. No, 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 no. Heaven is not going to use your five senses. So don't go there. Don't go there. This is not going to be this. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be this. Don't use your five senses. So the first thing you have to do is become accustomed to turning your senses off, to simply sitting in silence. Silence is different than being quiet. I'm talking about holy silence. I'm talking about dropping a pebble in a well. Dropping a pebble in a well. That's what this is about. This wondrous, wondrous image of imagining there is a well inside of you. Like a well in the forest. A beautiful, beautiful little well. Like maybe with moss around it or whatever. Imagine that you are walking toward that. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. And don't get comfortable. I don't want you comfortable. This isn't a massage table. Don't go playing this comfortable game because it's that time in the afternoon and I don't want you so you just shake up. This is not. I want you uncomfortable. One time I told a group, and this was the biggest mistake, and I will never do this again. I didn't want them to fall asleep, and I told them to put books on their heads. And just because then they would have to balance the book by the time you're boom, boom, boom. It was the most preposterous thing I'd ever suggested in my life. I thought, oh God, get me out of this. What have I done? I felt like such a four-star flaming butane idiot. I wanted to find someone to blame, but nobody came to mind. But anyway, it was so awful. And then I wanted to say I read this and it was someone's suggestion. I don't know. But it was so stupid. Anyway, you're not going to. But it was so stupid. I've done dumb things, but man, that was right up there. Whoa. Anyway. The idea of holy listening is that you become receptive. Your ego operates on a reward system. You've trained it that way. Your ego is spoiled, it is childish, it is hypersensitive, it's impatient, it is demanding, it's lazy. These could be its best elements. And so when it goes into any kind of, which is why you're incapable of serious meditation. The journey is, the experience is all about getting through this part of you. This part that expects a reward because you've closed your eyes. That expects to hear God the moment you've sat down and closed your eyes, as if that's worthy of a vision. As if that alone is worthy of, hello, it's about no, no, and no. That's not the way this works. Not at all. Not at all, not at all, not at all, not at all. Not at all. Not ever. Not at all and not ever. You close your eyes and you go in and imagine, just picture a well in a forest. And you're walking toward that well. Take a deep breath again. Move your feet if you have to stay awake, but you are doing this. And look at how much you have to fight to just stay awake. Look at how much you have to battle yourself just to do this, just to keep your attention. So look at how difficult it is to command your attention. And you're walking through the forest, you come to a well. It's very quiet. Don't look at me. And it's very, very quiet. And you see this well. And I want you to look down into the well. Very deep down in the well, you see water. You barely see your reflection. Now lean over and pick up a small pebble. Imagine that you're picking up a very small pebble. It is so quiet in this forest. There's not a sound, nothing, nothing. Not one sound, nothing. You take a very deep breath. You look and the sky's gorgeous, the trees are rustling, and you drop this tiny pebble, and it goes all the way down, and you see a small ripple, just a small one. You can't hear the ripple, but you see it. And you feel the ripple in you. You feel it. You feel a sensation in you, just a ripple, just a tiny, tiny ripple. That's all. That's all you feel is a sensation. That's all you feel. And you pray, I have come, Lord. I am here. I am here. And that's your prayer. I am here. I am here. That's it. That is your prayer. I am here. That is your only prayer. And you stand by your well. That is your prayer. And for each of you, you decide how long you want to rest by your well. How long you want to rest. I'm going to pull you out. I'm going to say, take a breath and come with me. Come back. But this is where you go. And when you go to your well, you come in, quietly drop your pebble. Let the sensation go into you. You just say, I am here, Lord. I'm just here. I am here. That's all. And let the silence become accustomed to the silence. Become accustomed to standing by the well and feeling a small ripple. That's all. Feeling a sacred breath in you. That's all. Just become accustomed to that, so that you can sense the difference between a sacred breath and yours. Soon you'll feel 2 breaths, and soon 3. Soon you'll sense a breath in you that is not your breath. Maybe not soon. Maybe it will take a while. This is how holy listening. You go to your well and say, talk to me. I need some help. That help may not come through words. You may find that you leave your well and then you wander through your life the next day or the next day or the next day. And while you are waiting, wondering, maybe worrying, suddenly you are saturated with a sensation of quietude, sacred quietude. Just saturated, thinking, whoa, I feel this deep sense of peace. It's not ordinary, it's this deep, deep, rich sense of inner peace, of inner tranquility. It is profound. It is so rich, so deep, so holy. And the silence itself is a message. I don't need words. You're past words. The mystical communicates in sensation, not in language. Sensation. And the sensation tells you, I'm with you. All is well. Shh, quiet now. Shh, quiet now. All is well. And you feel that. You feel it in every bone. Shh, quiet now. And you find yourself, and you slip into some cocoon of a sanctuary cocoon. And you think, I am so ridiculously safe. I'm so safe. I'm so okay. Just let me sit here just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't even know where here is, but I don't want to leave. And then you feel like you're slipping back somehow or other into the earth, and you have to get your feet back on the ground. And you think, okay, all right, let's do this, 1 more decade. And you just pull it together. But you are so safe. And somehow, you have to know it is that precious for each of you. These little sacred cocoons. It's just the absence of doubt. Just don't doubt. Doubt is a great word to take out. Please take that out. Please take it out. Okay. Now, I would honestly recommend that you form some kind of holy listening practice once a day. For your inner, that you do some kind of holy listening. And if you wanted to include a type of interpersonal spiritual direction with yourself, a way that you could incorporate what we've been talking about as a way of a practice, or is that, and this is something that keeps you, it's a practice that keeps you healthy and keeps going back to our very first lecture and the very first day. The focus is balance. So we're going back to bring it full circle to this idea that the purpose is to keep, I must keep with the laws of nature, that my sacred nature, my physical nature, that I must stay balanced. So that you ask yourself on a regular basis, what motivates me? What is motivating me here? What is motivating me? That when you find yourself feeling ill, feeling sick, feeling anxious, when you have to make a decision, no matter what, in the absence of a spiritual director, in the absence of someone to speak to, this is a spiritual director. You were saying, I have a decision to make. What I would ask is put out the motivations. What's motivating you? What is compelling you? Give me the pros, put out the pros and cons. What are the forces at work in you? What are the forces at work? What are your pros? What are your temptations? What forces are at work? And mostly, where are you kidding yourself? What are the parts of yourself you don't want to look at? Put everything out. Put everything out. Where are you likely to deny your own shadow? We were talking about paradox and the nature of God. And it's just like the universe, that if you say to yourself, I'm not like that, that's exactly how a party's going to end up. Exposing that part of yourself that you will always say you're not like. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, if you say, like, I never eat sugar, and then the next thing you know, they're going to find you in a candy factory. Right? Because that is how it always is. So if I said to you, okay, let's talk about where you are most likely to what the situation, where's your weak link? You should be the first person to be able, why wait for circumstances to pull out your weak link if you can do it? And sometimes maybe you can't see it. And that's all there's to it. But if you can see, this is a setup for me. This is a divine setup. I can see exactly what I'm going to have to face here. Then pull it out so you can talk about it. Like you could, if you saw going into thing, this is going to be difficult for me because I'm not okay around this kind of person. I go crazy around this. This person drives me nuts. This is very vulnerable. Or this is a job situation. I remember when I wrote Invisible Acts of Power, I got a letter from a model. And she said that, I think about her not infrequently because I thought she wrote such a revealingly honest letter. She said that she said in modeling, we have a very short lifeline, most of us, because by, age 29 or 30, they're already after 14-year-olds. She said, so our face is our fortune. And she said, when a younger model comes on the scene, that it's kind of a cat meow kind of thing. And there was a new shoot, they knew that there was going to be someone on a set who was scanning these models to choose some models, or one of them, for Vogue magazine. And that would be a big step up for these girls, for one girl at least. So and there was a new model on the set. She was younger and stunning, apparently. So that made her immediately unpopular, yes? Doesn't matter if she was nice. Nothing mattered. It was how she was packaged. And that her youth and her beauty gave her the advantage over women who were also beautiful, but maybe the hint of an age line showing, right? So she said this young model, and young, she was only a year younger, so this new model, I should say, came up. She was all dressed up, all puffed up, and she came up to her and she looked at me and she said, "Do I look okay?" And now, mind you, this model who wrote me, this older one, you have to really appreciate that she was somebody who was also in the, quote, field of spiritual consciousness. She was somebody who saw herself as, actively pursuing a spiritually conscious psyche and soul, which meant that she wanted to develop her intuition, wanted to develop her capacity to sense other people. This is how she was training herself. So that when she did sense the vulnerability of others, you don't have the option to decide, not you. I don't like what I'm sensing, and besides, I don't like you anyway. So I'm turning it off. You can't turn off stupid, and you can't turn off your intuition, and you can't do this. If you're intuitive, you're intuitive. So here comes this woman, and she says, "Do I look okay?" And so she said, I knew instantly she was feeling vulnerable, and that she wanted some reinforcement. She wanted me to say, "You look lovely, you're going to do fine." She said, "I knew that, but I couldn't do that I couldn't do that. I couldn't, and I wouldn't." She said, "Instead, I knowingly looked at her and said, 'You're all right.' I knowingly gutted her." She said, "I wasn't about to position her to feel better than I did." She just wasn't about to do that. Now I'm going to hit a pause button here and say what she described is an archetypal crossroads that everybody faces. Everybody on this life journey. And it's one of the spiritual passageways. I couldn't believe she owned this, and I just said, "Well done, you. Well done, well done." And she said, "I still struggle with what I did. I still see her, and I pray for her every day because of this." And it could be exactly what you're talking about, that moment, that critical moment that somehow or other meant more than I realized. When I used to do fundraising for a university, and I learned something. This is a life lesson, and thank you, God, that you gave it to me. And I had to ask for money for education. Education. So what's one of my things? One of my things is education. It's a big deal for me. A big deal, whether it's high school, college, university, adults, anybody. I'll educate a turtle. The passing on of knowledge, to me, is a sacred calling. It is my sacred calling. And it is sacred to me to pass on knowledge. And the second thing is to take care of homeless. These are my two sacred callings in this lifetime. So, I'm trying to get money, and I think Joycey knows this person I'm talking about. She was with me. So, this particular person is worth, was it 20 billion? 23? Yeah, right, 23 like that. And I had to go ask her for some money for students, not for students. A very small sum, the kind of money that she made in interest over lunch, yeah? Maybe over our hors d'oeuvres. Now, I don't have patience with this. They shouldn't have sent me. I don't have... I'm just going to say that. So you know what's coming, right? I mean, I don't have patience and I don't do this good. Well, I mean, really. And I'm not the kind of person, I'm really not the kind of person who says nice things. I just am not. All right. So I'm sitting there and I said, are you done with lunch? I have to ask you something. I need some money. We need some money for the school. These are for students. Yes or no? And I'm cutting to the chase. And so I promise you, here's Joycey, my witness. Promise you, she said, 22 billion. No, I didn't say million. Billion. She never earned a cent. This is called inheritance. And she's sitting there and she says, by the way, at lunch, I was going to have a party and I tell you, it's so crowded. Even if Paul McCartney wanted to come, and I talked to him last week, I couldn't fit him in. And I'm looking at her, Jesus, how much longer does this have to go on? All right. And I thought if I didn't love education so much, I'd put this fork through my eye. All right. So, and I'm thinking to myself, I'd rather have 12 root canals than be here with you. But all right. All right, I'm okay. I can hold it together. I can hold it together. I really can. For these students, I can hold it together. Yes, I can. I'm thinking scholarship, scholarship, scholarship. Hold it together. Okay. So I said, can I have the money? I've just sat through lunch with you. I was trying to be nice. And she says to me, with a fork, I've never given money to anything. All right, now comes the old Catholic in me, and you never want to wake that up. You never, ever, ever want to wake up the old Catholic that was trained in charity work and trained at the soup kitchens, trained to take care of the homeless. I looked at her, and I swear to God, if I could have changed into a dragon with fire eyes, I actually caught myself at Chartres by the cathedral saying, God, Mother of Grace, honestly, I'm going to jump across the table and wring her neck. Really, you got to help me because I really want to wring her neck. I'm thinking about which way. She thinks I'm thinking about dessert, but I want to strangle her. I promise you, I'm thinking, I want to strangle her. She thinks I'm thinking about dessert. And this is really what's going through my head. This selfish, I want to strangle her. She hasn't educated anybody. She hasn't helped anybody. And now I'm revving. Now it's starting. Now I'm going like this. And so I said, I need 150. Are you going to give me the money or not? And she said, well, I don't know. I've never even thought of charity. Oh, God, now she's really got me. I'm feeling hot. I'm flushed. I'm like, so I take a glass of ice and I go, cold water, then I have ice, cold water, I'm like this. Okay, calm down, calm down. I could feel my heart going like this. I think, I've got to calm down. I thought, help me. And then boom, I got it. And I looked at her. And I got it. And this is how heaven works. I suddenly got it. I wasn't asking her for money. It looked like money, it smelled like money, walked like money, worked like money. But it was power. I was asking her for power. I said money, but as it traveled across the table, it got consumed in her reality as power. Because at some point, money for people who, you know, when you say, isn't that enough? How much do they want? And yeti, yeti, yeti. Ordinary mortals like us, working class people, we don't have, I'm assuming, we don't have billions and billions and billions. We don't think in those terms. We don't have millions and millions. Maybe some of you, but most of us don't have millions and millions and millions. We just work. So for us to give money, we think in terms of money, and we do give money. We do give £100 here or $200, or we put people through school for $1,000, and we figure, well, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. It's okay. That's what we do. But at some point, for people with gobs, that idea of money goes into being rich, and I don't know what the sum is, but archetypally, it then goes into being wealthy. And it's I don't know what the sum is. I don't know if it's 5 million, 10, I do not know. But at some point, it converts from wealth to having enough where you can maneuver power. And when that happens, all the gears in a person changes. And when you ask them now for money, you're not asking for money. You're asking for the means through which you will empower human beings. Would you please give me $1 million to empower these impoverished people? And now the way they think in their equation is, if you empower them, they can now rise up and take my power away from me. No. And that's why it's more difficult to get money from wealthy people than it is for ordinary mortals. Because you don't see them as threatening to take away everything you have because you don't have that much. And further, you can still see that eye level with them. You're still standing eye level with you can still utter the prayer, except for the grace of God, go I. And recognize that is the truth. You are not standing there saying, oh my God, those dirty masses. If I empower them, now they will take my power and they will be able to make unkind laws against me like I can against them. Which is why, that is exactly why the laws are becoming more and more distant. Why the aristocracy is disempowering the masses even more. Why the imbalance is becoming even greater, and you think, what the hell's wrong with you? Can't you see that what you're doing is even more toxic? What is wrong with you? You have so much more, and they're having so much less, and that's exactly right. If you think, well, we have so much more, we're going to give you the means to rise up. That's why it's in their best interest that, in fact, we even take away from education. We have to dull your senses. We have to sicken you and pour in more drugs. We have to get you more addicted and less bright. Dull your senses, dull your body. This is what's happening. You got it? Which is why it's so important, so vitally important, that you get it, and you get wise to this system, and you don't fall into the trap of thinking you're depressed, or thinking you're anxious, or getting on their machine, their hamster wheel, that says, oh my, the malaise, the vibrational malaise is so heavy, and the psychic machinery that they're generating to keep the masses drugged, legitimately or illegitimately, is so intense that for you to stand separate in your life and in your power is such an effort now. Such an effort. For you to say, I can hold myself together. I can do this. I can get through. What we need are spiritual, we need soul companions, we need the network of spiritual direction. You need to find what, in fact, you never thought you needed, which is a spiritual network where you really plug in and say, is this prayer time together? You need to know that you are part of a holy community of like-minded souls. And that's what you need. And you really do need to care for the power behind your eye with as much attentiveness as you think you have given your body, if you have, believing that your body should live forever, when in fact you've taken your eyes off the real target, which is the soul. People have poured all their energy in thinking that they can let their body go on forever. when in fact it's the soul. Questions?
Did you get the money?
No, she never gave me the money. Let me just say this. She said she would, then sent her lawyers in. And the lawyers made up this labyrinth of ways that had to be paid back. It wasn't, she would not give a grant or just and it was at the end of it, and it would be paid in 150,000 bucks for $22 million. Are you kidding me? I could never even, I can't bring myself to see this person again. Despicable spirit. How could someone not want to educate her? How could, it's incomprehensible to me. Incomprehensible. But look what I learned. I learned everything, I learned such a valuable lesson about power. Like, wow, I should have said, you want to give me some power? And watch her fall over. Oh, God, anything but that. Yes. Somebody has called me with a microphone.
The microphone's here.
Where is it? Oh, go.
If this is not significant, just say it's not significant. But we were having a conversation about time of day, and in medical terms, when people suffer from depression, there's something called early morning waking, where they wake up in the middle of the night when they're depressed. Mm-hmm. And I noticed myself when I was going through, when I go through like rough times, if something's bothering me, I always wake up at 3:30 in the morning, always 3:30. So I was discussing it with some of the other ladies around here, and someone mentioned that apparently Wayne Dyer talked about this concept where when you wake up at that time of the morning, apparently you're meant to get up and meditate. And I just wondered whether you kind of had any, is it any significance, or is it just?
Well, I think that's the hour between 3:30 and 4 where the shift changes, where the emotional body shifts to the mental. And just like in the afternoon, just about now, you're going through the shift where your emotional body is shifting from the mental. So your emotional body is now taking over, and it will go into its 12-hour shift. And your mental body will go to sleep. It will go into a tranquility.
Mind, similar sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, because this is what happens when we're not congruent, so that our mental sense and what is that? I can't have that. I can't have that. It's hurting my ears. Whatever that is.
Needs to come up here. That needs to go away.
Okay. Our mental body takes the day shift and into right about now, which is why it's so urgent to do the significant work in the morning. Not that this isn't, but, and that the mental body does all the reasonable, rational. Then right about this time, between 3:30 and 4:30, your mind shuts down, which is why it's so hard to stay awake. You go like this. And your language, again, the vocabulary changes. And your emotional nature wakes up and prepares to take over for the evening and through the night. And so the mind starts flushing down to the heart everything you did, said, saw, contacted all day. And your emotional body says, all right, give it to me. You did what? All right, oh, says, all right, da, 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 da. And then out of your mouth comes your emotional vocabulary, which does, and your emotional archetypal patterns begin to take over. Like getting in the driver's seat, like saying, all right, get out of here, I'm taking over. So you start talking like this. Oh, I hate this room. I'm going to get out of here. Let's go someplace cozy. Let's go get some tea or a wine. You start getting that cozy emotional voice. And off you go. Because it's emotion time. And then you start saying things like, I know what I thought, but let me tell you how I feel. And now comes the feeling vocabulary. as the thinking is sleeping. Now, every now and again, the feeling part of you, which is the rational, common sense part, is now kind of sleeping. And if you really want to guarantee it sleeps, you start drinking or taking drugs, or you do things to absolutely put it to sleep. Now, you do that, and then the emotional part can come up and become even more rowdy. Oftentimes, the emotional part will then wake up the erotic part. Because the emotional part says, good, that part of us is sleeping, let's go. And the erotic part wakes up and picks up someone to go home with. And you oftentimes see this in movies. So that the erotic part takes home a partner, gets erotic as hell, and then around 3:34 in the morning, wakes up and is a frozen iceberg. Oh, look at that. Puts on a suit and walks out. And says, we didn't do this. Totally mental. Totally mental. So from a spiritual point of view, when you wake up at 3:30,
Is there something you can do to help your spiritual?
is there something you could do? Well, you know that with the monks, they have their times. They have loud and prime and what is it called? Vigils. And, they have their certain hours of prayer because it is timed at certain. And if you want, you could have a little prayer book there. It says, I'm going to say a prayer and make it through this, because it is that passage through the night where and you know what's happening, your mental body is suiting up for the day. It's a suit up time.
But why does it only happen when I'm disturbed? Why do I sleep through?
Because you might be processing more. It's as simple as that. It's an active, you're very active. You're very active. Yeah.
Can I just say it's also time?
Yeah, but I was going in this direction. But somebody take the mic. Right. Very polite, this.
When looking for a spiritual director, is it a process? This year I found, for the first time, I've always been prayerful. I feel connected. I've always heard God speak to me. But I went through something this year and I was like, I'm going crazy. Should I see a therapist? I never thought I should. And I did, and I was like, no, I don't want a nodding head. It's not in my head, it's here. And then I heard you say something about a spiritual director. I was like, is this a thing? I was like, what? So I looked it up and I was like, holy shit, like this is it. And so I grew up Catholic and I had an amazing upbringing in the church. And so
We could make Catholics popular.
Yeah, yes.
Go ahead.
And so I was like, okay, I want it to be rooted in, something sacred. I live in Los Angeles. Everybody is a therapist.
That's where one of the big universities are to teach spiritual direction.
And I think I saw that.
Yeah.
So I looked at one of the churches and I found a nun and I talked to her. It was lovely over the phone. And I went and it was so peaceful. And it was the first time that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to somebody about this stuff. And she goes, tell me what's on your mind. And like verbal diarrhea on her. And she kind of said, how does God speak to you? And I told her. And then, I was like, okay, this is a safe space. I started talking about like all kinds of stuff and reincarnation. And then I just think she tuned out. And I was like, I think maybe it wasn't a right match because I'm kind of like you, like fiery and real, and she wasn't maybe that type. And she goes, maybe you need a therapist. And I was like, and then I was confused and I was like, well, what is spiritual direction? And she's like, well, for instance, there's this woman, she's 60 years old and she just really doesn't know how to pray. And I'm like, oh Lord, like I know how to pray. Like,
yeah.
So
Well,
I just thought.
That's one form of, somebody would go to a spiritual director to say, help me learn how to pray, help me learn, that's part of.
But I just thought. This is not, so I was thinking, are there different levels? Are there different?
that is most definitely true. Like you want to go to a spiritual director when you say, I'm having past life
And it wasn't about that.
fade-ins.
It wasn't even about that. It was like,
Yeah.
for the first time in my life, I was really mad at God. And I kind of like you yell, I'm like, you got to throw me a bone here. Like, it was like crickets. For the first time, I was like, ooh, I'm going through something real good, but crickets. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Throw me a bone right now.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah.
saying that, and I couldn't say that with anybody. I was like, I need to talk to somebody. That's why I looked into it. So yeah, if you have maybe any suggestions of a place where I can go where I live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And are you in Los Angeles
Yeah.
now? No, I have a spiritual director for you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
Okay. Yes?
It's just so boring after that.
Anyone? Oh, I'm so boring after that. Anyone up here? That's so cute. Oh, okay, go.
I just want to ask the things you were just talking about. Did you write it in one of your books about the timing and stuff like that?
I've lectured about it. It is on a number of my lectures, like it will be on this one. Have I written about this? I could have in one of my articles. I have 2 books that I'm working on. One is a book on prayer, because these are all my prayers that I'm reading. And I'm doing a book on prayer and guidance, which I feel like is very significant. And then the second book is on nature's theology, like the new theology of our time. And in that, I was talking, I hadn't decided whether to put that in, because I've lectured about it so much, but maybe I will. It's good. It's good stuff, yeah.
With Pythagoras.
Huh?
Pythagoras. I say with Pythagoras.
Where's Pythagoras?
No, I was making a joke.
Oh,
I
right.
said
Pythagoras.
with Pythagoras.
Yeah, Miss Pythagoras. With Pythagoras, okay, yeah.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you had mentioned that mind has no place in the spiritual journey, and I'm working on that, but you had also said that to have faith, you just have to take a leap. Is it as simple as that? Is you wake
Now,
up one day and
thank
say...
you for saying that, because I would like to clear, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's the question. Is it that simple?
You know, when I say the mind has no place, let me be very clear about that. Obviously, part of the spiritual journey is the intellectual, the reading, the consuming that. But where I draw the limit, and thank you for bringing that up, because it was obviously a piece I didn't say well, is that as I observed in healing for decades, to have faith that the mind can heal, can complete a healing journey, when the mind itself is usually a toxic instrument, because it's full of narratives like, you poor wounded thing, or negative attitudes, or the stories we tell ourselves that prevent us from forgiving somebody. That itself needs healing. That itself needs healing. The mind itself is toxic. The part of ourselves that has the kind of power, if you will, or fuel, to get us through that what we think of as that stubborn intellectual reasoning. Look, these are the reasons I have that justify my being so angry. That part of ourselves that just sticks in the mud, the prideful part, the only thing that can bust through that is the mystical part that somehow can access a way of perceiving, not thinking, but perceiving, that is completely non-rational, non-logical. Because that's what a miracle is. That's what faith is. Faith is not reasonable. It's not logical. It is not accessible through the mind. It is that part where you finally yield to. I have no idea why that's why it is so important. If you read all the scriptural lessons, All of them, whether you read them from the Bhagavad Gita, or you read from Taoism, or you read Confucius, I don't care where you go. At the end of the day, they all say, stop asking why. Stop it. That's your torment. If you just yield that and say, there is no logical reason, give that up. Put your head on the altar. Put it on the altar. Your mind is this useful instrument to walk around the world and say, desk, podium, shoe. Okay?
What if your mind's not asking why, but how? It's not, it's just,
Like how? And so phrase a question for me.
like,
How are you?
how do you accept the mystical if you've never experienced it? How do you, I can sit here and listen to very
How do you,
smart people.
right. How do you
say that-
accept the mystery? Because that's really true. Like, how do you accept something that, how do I accept that there's anything out there if I have no sense of it? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Which becomes a great prayer, which is something, this is, you close your eyes and you say, I'm going to show up at the well. I'm going to assume you're out there. And I'm going to start there. I'm going to start there. Right there. Because heaven does not show up as proof. So what your question is full of is, I'll believe you're doubting Thomas today. And you're saying, I'll believe if I can put my fingers in a wound. That's just what you said to me.
So it's Woody Allen's 98% of his success is just showing up?
Yeah, precisely. So you, and what, and I'm going to use mystical speak. Let's say I was an angel. And I show up and say, look, I'm going to explain something to you. What is your name?
Kevin?
Kevin?
Yes.
I'm going to explain something to you, Kevin. And that's that. Let's just say, I really took off my costume and angeled up and showed you how big I really was. If I really showed you how big I was, and if I really told you the truth, I was the size of Scotland. Not kidding. Not bullshitting you. Really that big. And blew your eyeballs out. And if I really showed you how bright I was and said, now do you believe me? First of all, I would fry your brains. And I do mean that literally. I would fry your brains. Like Saul of Tarsus, I would blind you for 3 days. And that's why he was blinded. And he wrote in the scriptures while he was in the prison, before his death, these are the realms I visited while I was blind for 3 days. I could not bear the light, but I was escorted to the realms. And I saw the hierarchy of angels, that there were angels governing the planets, angels here, and down to the realm of angels in nature. He finally released that before they killed him. Paul, St. Paul, was Saul of Tarsus and then St. Paul. That this you could not bear to see. I can't give you something that you cannot contain. But if you can become a container for something, every single person who has had a profound mystical experience has paid some price for the encounter with light. Teresa collapsed on the ground for hours and hours. Padre Pio was burned through his body. I can go on and on and on. Not one came close to the light without Francis of Assisi, seizures. Every one of them. Every one. Teresa, seizures. Everyone burned. The light was so bright. So what we'll do, says the angel to you, is we're going to take this real slow. We're going to take it real slow. You're going to show up. We'll come closer, you come closer. We come closer, you come closer. How's about that? Yeah.
Kind of adding to that, you know, I for some reason, you know, about a month or so ago, I had said to my brother Kevin, I said, well, you know, something's going to be happening that I think you'll really enjoy. Now, we both have come to this almost the same place, but in a different direction. Kevin, I know he's fighting this battle with this mental thing. I feel more mystical, and we have had not arguments. We have had the most interesting conversations over the past 3 days because we've never done this kind of thing together before. I have to say, this is the most spiritual man I've ever met in my life. He takes care of our family. You know, we've went through so much shit when we were kids. And he survived this. He survived it by becoming what he is. I survived it becoming artsy-fartsy, you know. And I have a really strong faith. And I have had some amazing moments which have made me really you know, I hold on to it so strongly that sometimes things like this are really difficult for me, that I know what I believe. No, I don't want to hear what you believe. You know, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And don't be so loud because you bother me. And don't sit so close. And don't tell me what you think because this is what I believe and I don't want to hear.
Yeah,
you know.
yes.
And so it's just.
Oh, I know.
You know, I know it's a bad thing to be that way, and I try to let go of it. And it's so hard. But, you know, I listen to Kev, and I'm enjoying this weekend so much because I've never had anybody that I could talk to like this. And I've just loved it. I've loved every minute of it. And this is the best man I've ever met in my life. That's all I want to say.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Go, we're right up there. Moving on up.
Hi.
Hi.
I just have this question that for some reason I've been burning to ask you the past couple of days, and for some reason I really feel like I want to hear you say this. And it's, do you believe that everything's always meant to be? Like,
No.
whatever it is you're doing,
No.
you're meant to be doing that?
No. No,
Okay.
no, and no, and no. Go ahead.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. I deeply believe in wisdom and woe. Okay, so let's say I'll be your angel. Don't I do that good? Okay, so I'm your angel. And I'm going to tell you that in this lifetime, you signed up for a series of learning options. And we have to give you a tool. And that tool is going to be this knife. So I'm going to tell you something before you incarnate, and it's going to be in your gut. So I'm going to put it in your gut. So it's going to manifest as a gut instinct. The best place for it. Hunch, gut instinct. If you grab the blade first, you're going to think this is a weapon. And you're going to want to hurt people. Because you're going to know it hurts. So you're going to have this inclination to say, why me? Ooh. Why did God give me this life? This. And you won't look to the handle to see that there's something else hidden in this blade. So you're going to turn, and you got a wisdom or woe, but you're still holding the blade. even though your angel's saying, grab the handle. You grab the bloody handle. You won't let go because you just won't let go. So you keep hurting yourself. And then you hurt others because that's what you think this is. So you choose the woe path. But you have the wisdom option. But you won't let go. Nobody's making you hold on. In fact, all the guidance is let go. You got to heal yourself. Heal yourself and you'll discover. Now, if you grab the blade first, the handle first, you think, wow, look at this tool. I'm going to carve bowls. I can make a house. I could become a chef. My choices are endless. Look at what I've got here. I could feed 1 million people. And you never harm anybody. All you do is bless, endless blessings. So it's up to you, isn't it? The only thing that's meant is by the time you come back to me, you will have mastered this. Got it?
Hello?
Yeah.
So Caroline, that couldn't have been more perfect in your timing. If so say I take the handle instead of the knife, and you're my archangel. And I take all the archetypal patterns of the past and put in the word conflict and remove it and put in the word peace. And I carve a whole new future that looks a lot different from the one we see and we all look at today. But there's
the one I see. Don't you dare use a collective pronoun.
the one I see
Yeah.
that looks much different from today. As my archangel,
Yeah.
on my route to Prime Minister,
Yes.
have you any advice about leaving the patterns of the past behind us and carving that future?
I will end on that with a prayer. Do I have advice as all you cherubs go into the world? Okay. These are rocky times. And don't kid yourself. These are seriously rocky times. We are in the age of the unthinkable. And that is real. Don't think that because things have not happened, they cannot happen. We've crossed that Rubicon, people. We are seriously in the age of the unthinkable, where what we have believed could never happen, we've become complacent. We've assumed certain things would never happen again. We've made wrong assumptions. We are not in the habit of praying for others, of praying for our world community, of praying for our own survival, of praying for the survival, which is why it's in such a mess. We've become self-serving, narcissistic, believing that our petty little wounds. You want to see wounds? Wait if nuclear disaster happens. That'll suddenly snap you out of a few things if you've been holding on to something. It'll proportion things just fine. We are facing that. We are actually really facing that. We have that insane a world. We have a Middle East on fire. No thanks to the United States. No thanks to Western civilization. We have Europe breaking apart. Thanks to okay. We have nothing but crises. Now, the way through depends so much on how our consciousness changes. We are the engines of events. We are. And you can't afford to tell yourself that somehow or other, by not watching the news, you're saving yourself. You can't be that spoiled or foolish. What's happening in the world, this is your world, and you are not a freeloader. We must each carry our part of this world and the vibrational part of this world. You can't afford not to be all you are, especially knowing the truth that what is in one is in the whole. How you are affects the whole of this planet. It doesn't matter that you can't see it. It does not matter that you cannot see the consequences. And what the whole does affects your biology. It affects your psyche. It affects everything. So make a commitment to spend even a moment a day pouring grace into this whole place. Pouring grace in. Feeling a connection to everybody. Doing so that a path that we're on that is just the woe path becomes the wisdom. So that we can, so that maybe this energy, this grace in some way will inspire an idea in someone to say, let's try one more time at the bargaining table. Maybe that's enough grace to, just to do that. But you make a commitment that the earth, the world, and the global community, the human community, the animal community, becomes a part of your spiritual life. And that you begin your life here fully, then enough of the past. That the past in a negative way doesn't talk to you anymore. What good does it do? That you look at your talent and your soul and everything you have to give, and you exploit that. You exploit that. And you show up at your inner well, and you say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Okay? Hover over me, God, with grace and gratitude for my life. I know some days will be dark and difficult. I don't want to appreciate my life only when it is easy and filled with love. So grant me the grace to endure the dark nights of my life as well as the bright days. For one always comes with the other. Bless this wondrous work of creation and all I share my journey with and all who I share it with. I bow in gratitude to you that I am part of it all. Help me to walk humbly upon Mother Earth, who sustains me every day that I live. Amen. Thank you. And thank you at home. You are wonderful. Thank you all. You are wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Don't make me cry. Thank you, thank you.